Okay, so this table on the back should look very similar to the table that was on your, that you took your quiz over, that we went over in class yesterday. So we're going to go, I'll go back through the steps on how to find the missing parts. All right, so for number 14, let's look and see what they've given us. They gave us the slope, that's our m. Now, I changed this because on your study guide it says -2/1, and we know that that's not simplified, so it should say just -2. So go ahead and fix that on your study guide. I'm sorry about that. And then it gives you the y-intercept. Remember, this is your b, so this is b, this is m. Well, if I know m and I know b, I can write my equation in slope-intercept form because it's y equals mx plus b. So we can go ahead and answer that part. Y equals m is -2. Don't forget your x plus 3. Now, we still have to find the x-intercept. So we come over here to our standard form. To find the x-intercept, we cover up the y. Now, I know some of you were a little surprised on the quiz when you ended up with an intercept being a fraction. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with your intercept being a fraction. It doesn't have to go through an integer every single time. So to write this, remember it's just 2x equals 3. So I'm going to come over here and put 2x equals 3, and I'm going to solve for x. Guys, this is a one-step equation. We divide both sides by 2. So x equals 3/2. And again, if you want to put that in your calculator, 3 divided by 2, it is 1.5, but leave it as a fraction. So to write that as a coordinate, because remember a coordinate is how we're going to write our x-intercept, we're going to say 3/2, 0. Make sure you put parentheses around your coordinate. Don't leave those off. If not, if you leave those off, it's just two numbers with a comma between them. It's not a coordinate. All right, on number 5, it's very similar to number 1, except this time they give me the x-intercept and not the y-intercept. I need the y-intercept. I need these two pieces of information to be able to answer this. So we're going to have to find the y-intercept pretty much the same way we found the x-intercept here. This time, though, we're going to cover up the x. Now, when I cover up the x, that minus sign goes with that 5. So this is -5y equals 10. And then we divide both sides by -5. And y equals -2. And again, if you need your calculator, plug it in your calculator. Okay? So we're going to write it as 0, -2. That's your m. That's your b. So y equals 2/5 x minus 2. Some things just that I remember my students making mistakes on the quiz is just double check. Make sure that your slopes match. Make sure that your y-intercepts match. Just double check those signs. They are important. Don't leave those off. Okay. All right, on 16, they only gave us these two pieces of information, the x and the y-intercept. Okay, well, I cannot write either one of these equations until I know the slope. So finding the slope is going to be my first step. Now, you can do it just all the different ways that we've done it on the study guide. You can draw your arrows. Okay, so if I go from a -1 to a 0, I've added 1. And if I go from a 0 to a -2, I've subtracted 2. And so my slope is 1 divided by -2. Okay, now I'm going to write that up here. Okay, 1/2. And we're going to see if that can simplify. Okay, 1 divided by -2. Math, enter, is still -1/2. Okay, so this is the same thing. The negative can go in the top, numerator can go in the denominator, can go out in front. It's all the same. So this is m, this is b, and now that I have the slope, I can write my slope-intercept form. So y equals -1/2 x minus 1. That's my m, that's my b. Okay. So now we want to go to standard form. Okay, so I'm going to kind of work that down here, but just know this is the answer that we're looking for for this box. We want to get rid of the fraction. Okay, so actually, you know what? I'll just work it all over here. So how do we get rid of the fraction? Well, we multiply through by the denominator. The denominator is 2. So 2 times this entire equation. So 2 times y is 2y. 2 times negative 1/2 is just negative 1x. And 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now again, if you don't know what that is, just plug it in the calculator. All right, so now we've gotten rid of the fraction. Now we got to get x on the same side. So we're going to move this over. When we move it to the other side, we have to change its sign. So that's going to become a positive 1x plus 2y equals negative 2. Because this is positive, we're done. This is our answer. If that had been negative, then we would have to go through and change all of our signs. Okay. And if you can double check and just make sure that that's correct. We can cover up the y. The x-intercept's negative 2, matches. We can cover up the x and divide both sides by 2. We get negative 1. The y-intercept's negative 1. So that matches. So I know that this equation works with these x and y-intercepts. All right, on number 7, they gave me the slope. I don't know the x or the y-intercept, so I can't write the equation. But they did give it to me in standard form. So we're going to find the x and the y-intercepts. Remember, to find the x-intercept, we cover up the y. So that's just x equals 5 when we cover up the y. And so we write our coordinate 5, 0. When I want to find the x or the y-intercept, I cover up the x. Remember, don't forget about that negative sign. So it's negative 5y equals 5. We want to solve for y, so we have to divide by negative 5. I know I have a lot of students that anytime they have to divide by a negative number, they forget about that negative. Don't forget about it. You're going to miss this. So y equals negative 1. So 0, negative 1 is your y-intercept. Well, now that you have this, the m and the b, we can write the equation. So y equals 1/5 x minus 1. Okay, on 18, all they gave me was slope-intercept form. But remember, there's 2 pieces of information that I have to know to be able to write slope-intercept form, and that is m and b. So I already can fill in these 2 boxes because they're given to me right here. So my slope is 2/3, and my y-intercept is 0.6. Now, some people on the quiz put this in standard form and then use that to find the x and the y-intercept. Use this to find the x-intercept, but don't use it to find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right here. So don't miss that because you have, some of you missed it because you had the wrong equation over here. Pull your m and your b from this equation. Now, to put it in standard form, which we're going to have to find before we can find the x-intercept, we're going to multiply through by the denominator. So 3 times y equals 2/3 x plus 6. So we're multiplying the whole equation by 3. So this gives me 3y equals 2x plus 18. Again, if you need to multiply that in your calculator, do it. It's still going to give you 2. We're going to move the x to the other side. And when it does, that term changes signs. Nothing else is going to change. It's all going to remain the same. I didn't move the x to the other, or the 18 to the other side. I didn't move the 3y to the other side. The only thing I moved was the 2x. Now, it's negative. We want it to be positive. So we have to multiply through by negative 1 or just change all the signs. So that's going to be a positive 2x minus 3y equals negative 18. And you can double check to make sure. If I cover up the x, negative 18 divided by negative 3 is positive 6, and that's what my y-intercept is. To find your x-intercept, we're going to cover up the y. So that gives me 2x equals negative 18. And then I divide both sides by 2, so x is negative 9. So my coordinate then is negative 9, 0. All right, and then on the last one, the first, we can't, well, I mean, we could rearrange this and solve for y to get this equation. That would give me the slope and the y-intercept. That's one way to do it. And the other way, which is the way that we worked it in class, or my class worked it, was to find the x and the y-intercept first, because it's by using standard form. So to find the x-intercept, we cover up the y, so x equals negative 8. And so this coordinate then is negative 8, 0. To find the y, we cover up the x, so that gives me negative 4y equals negative 8. And when you divide both sides by negative 4, y equals 2. So 0, 2 is your y-intercept. So I have part of the equation. I have the b, but I don't have the m. So I'm going to have to find the m. So we can find m the way we did up here, or if you want to make a table, you can put your coordinates in a table and you can check your change. Okay, so to go from a negative 8 to a 0, we add 8, and a 0 to a 2, we add 2. So your change in y over your change in x is going to be 2 over 8. Again, if you don't know what that reduces to, put it in your calculator. Hit math, enter, enter, and it's 1/4. I know a lot of us are quick to say, oh, 2 and 8, that's 4. Well, 8 divided by 2 is 4, but 2 divided by 8 is 1/4. So now you know m and you know b, and we can write our equation. 1/4 x plus 2. And double check and make sure. If you want to, if you have time, rearrange this or multiply that by 4 to make sure that it comes out to be the same equation that you have here. Everything should flow. You should be able to go from one to the other after you have your answers, and everything should match.